All right, welcome to a special edition of GolfWRX Radio. I'm joined by a good friend and a fellow golf absolute gear junkie, Jake Morrow from Made for the Range. Jake, what is going on, man? Thanks for
How's
joining
it
me.
going, dude? Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this is awesome. We're gonna go through best irons here. Every year, GolfWRX, we kind of do best driver, best fairway, best irons. We kind of do all those. And we're jumping in irons. And I think irons, other than driver, I think driver's probably like the sexiest category.
Yeah.
But irons is definitely a big one. So how we do it is we actually, like, we don't do robot testing, any of that stuff. We actually poll fitters from around the country, around the world, and basically pick their brains for their data on what irons are performing the best in their bays and their fittings and all that. So I know everybody's got their own way of doing it. We love it this way because, fitters across the country have seen far more swings than, say, you or I could put on
sure.
any one of these clubs. Like like you and I were just talking before this, we've hit all these things, but
Yeah.
we there's no way we could put as many swings on it as these fitters see. So we poll them, interview them, all that stuff, and we've come up with this list of best irons. So it's interesting. There's some interesting ones, some ones that you're going to be like, well, that's not a shocker. I think there's a couple that are very interesting. I'll give my point of view. But when it comes to irons, kind of what's for me, I love the thing about irons is I love how everybody is a little bit different on how they go about doing similar things. When you look at players' distance and you look at the brands, they've all got their own little kind of recipe. They're all doing their kind of little own thing, and you see it from hollow body to not hollow body and foam fillings and different things. But they're all doing stuff different, but they're all trying to get the same thing out of every category. And, Jake, what's your kind of feeling on irons before we jump into it? I mean, what do you look at in 2025 just overall? What do irons look like to you so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that we're starting to see with all of the OEMs to me is that they've started getting really good at understanding that everybody else's stuff is good. So the OEMs have a lot of acknowledgement of, what's out there and kind of what the category leaders are. And then everybody's trying to tell their own story about a very specific aspect of their gear, which is really cool because we've stopped seeing everybody say 10 yards further, 10 yards straighter, 10 miles an hour faster. And now it just goes into, we did this face design. So now it's way more forgiving in these places. And the speed's going to remain the same off of the last thing you hit. And the distance is going to be similar, but we really increased this forgiveness area. Some companies are like, yeah, our stuff was already super forgiving, but the speeds that we're achieving, we now need the ball to go higher. And then, in the last couple of years, we got this insane category of HL stuff, which I think, even though it's not my fit at all, I think is the coolest category of irons. Yep. And then, you start to look at just the different stories that are told, like some of them are super tech driven, which I know is one of your guys' categories. So it's cool to see how the OEMs have an acknowledgement of each category within themselves. And it's kind of them trying to show the way that their company thinks and the performance that they prioritize versus another OEM's, because it is a little bit different. And I like that because it buckets players into the ability, like, if you care about this a lot, you're going to lean more in towards this. But if you care about this a lot, you're going to lean more towards this. And they're both great options, but now we have more variability. And that's why I think you guys doing it with fitters is so cool, because fitters get to see every swing you can think of, right? They're 25 handicap. Let's just try to get the ball up in the air, and +5 handicaps of, missing by 1.5 yards is detrimental to them. So, really cool stuff here. The list is, I think it's well thought out, and happy to dive in.
Yeah. So we'll jump into the first category, and the categories are I think a lot of people would probably expect, like you mentioned, like handicap, like, oh, it's going to be high handicap, low handicap. Well, we've come to find, like, handicap doesn't tell that whole story in terms of, there's players out there who have tons of speed, but they're 25 handicap, just athletic players who can move it. And then there's players who are probably scratch plus handicaps that just don't hit it that far anymore, and all that. So, there's handicap speed. There's a bunch of factors that go into it. So we've kind of broken it up in a little different categories. The first one we're jumping to is just overall performance. And this is just basically just overall, what are some great irons? What are irons that fit a wide range of players that you're kind of in fittings all the time? They always seem to come up. They're always ones that seem to work really well. And these are just kind of, that overall, kind of best performers. And we'll start from the list, and, it's in, I'll say it's in order in a sense. It kind of is. You can read into it however you like. But we're going through it. Strixon ZX i5s, the TaylorMade P790, Titleist T150, Ping i530, and the Srixon ZX i7. So I'm going to throw it at you. Is there one on there that jumps out that you're just kind of like, yeah, that screams overall performance to me? Like, is there one, just from reading that list real quick, that just jumps in first and says, yeah, this fits that category really well?
Yeah, I think the two for me in this category are the i530 and then the ZX i7. So the ZX i7, when I read the list, was like super interesting, right? It seems like the outlier in that because of the category that the other ones fall into. But I think it's a testament to Srixon being really, really focused on how they're developing that 7 series iron, because the original one, so the ZX7, was it felt like this little in-betweener that didn't quite hit the right category, and then in the Mark II, it had a little cult to it. And then they took everything that made the Mark II so successful, and they brought it up just a tiny bit to be just ever so slightly a little bit more playable for people that maybe the V-Sole is just a little bit too much for them, and they kind of tamed it a little bit. And then they also made certain parts of the face a little bit hotter with that new iframe stuff. And then the i530 to me, and this is, I'm going to shout out LaRoche on this one. He's a huge i530 guy. He, like Brian LaRoche, at his driver swing speed is 125 miles an hour, is playing i530s. His son, Gavin, who's 12, just started golfing, swings his driver at maybe 80 miles an hour, also playing i530s. So it goes into this crazy category of that iron is so incredibly easy to launch without being out of control. And that's been a hard thing over the last, let's call it 4 or 5 years with the golfers that have come into the space. Lots of college athletes, lots of people that during COVID had nothing else to do but golf. We saw all these incredible, aggressive, super strong type people come in, and finding the right iron for that golfer is so tricky because, like you just said, with the handicap thing, you can't really do it that way because they hit the ball so hard, but just maybe not out of the middle of the club face. Yeah. So those are my two in this category that like stood out to me, because I think the ZXi7 being in there is a true testament to that lineup and to Srixon really listening to the customer. It's not, it's not one of the flashiest, or I don't think Srixon is the first thing that a lot of people think when you think of golf clubs in general. But they've done such a terrific job with that lineup. And then Ping's Ping, Ping's going to respond accordingly, and they usually do a pretty dang good job of it.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, i530 to me was kind of the most shocking out of all of the lists, only because, and only because, I'm not saying it's a bad iron. It's just, it's been out for a while. Like, this isn't a new iron. Kind of, it's there. It kind of got hidden under, the new Blueprint S, the i230, which everybody loves, the G series, which is always just iconic every year. Yeah. So it kind of gets buried below those siblings. Yeah. And like it's been out for this is its second year in a sense. So it's like it was one of those ones that like I felt like nobody really talked about in the beginning. And now, your explanation was spot on. And, I got to talk to a lot of these fitters, and it was the same thing. It's just like, man, this is such a good iron for speed, but it's not, uncontrollable long. Yeah. It's just like it adds that speed. It's compact. Like everything about it just is really good. And it was just interesting to me because, like I said, we didn't hear that as much last year about this iron. And now people are starting to really love it. And yeah, I can look in there, you look at, to me, the Titleist T150, that to me, I know it's 2 years old. It's on its second year of the life cycle, but that to me was a great, I call it cheater club. A guy like me who's a 10 trying to get back into single digits, can play that iron with no problem. But when I look down on it, I feel good about it. It looks like a player's iron. It looks like a T100 in a way, just a little bit bigger. But it gives me the speed I need. It gives me that little bit of more help that I needed, and it feels and sounds good and all that. And I love that iron. And I think it does fit anything from, a tour player who plays on the weekends that we watch on TV all the way to, somebody who is probably that maybe 12 or maybe 15. You could push it if you're a decent iron player. Yeah. And then the other one that I'll jump into is the ZXi5. Like you said about the 7, it's so good. It's been refined over the past generations. I think ZXi5, I think this version spins a little less than some of the previous ones. Yeah, absolutely. It's easy to get in the air. It's super long. It's super forgiving. And when you look down at it, it's decent size. Like the top line's not razor thin, but they don't have a ton of offset. They look good, and they've got something there that like, wow, if I catch this one a little off the toe or a little off the heel, I'm going to be
Yeah.
okay. I'm still going to be all right. And that iron to me just jumps out because I just think, the again, wide range of players and the ability to combo it. You could take,
Yeah.
fives and sevens, put them together and make a really good set where your gapping's good at the top end because you're producing enough ball speed. And then
100%.
at the bottom end, you're not losing all the launch and hitting it too flat. You still can get it in the air and you still have
Yeah.
that little bit of forgiveness. So I love the fact that those two were on there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at this entire category too, the one thing that I really love about every iron that got picked here, and it's a very the way you guys do this and the way that you let fitters kind of help decide these lists is so cool because if you look at all these 5 irons and you think about them, they're all really good at dispelling the handicap myth that we talked about in the beginning. Like the T150 is a perfect example of one of the guys that I golf with the most is older in age. He's like getting into his 60s, but I don't know if I've ever seen him mishit a ball, right? Whereas, so he can't play T100s anymore because it doesn't produce enough ball speed, but he also doesn't need a hollow body and offset and all this stuff. So if you look at this category, I think that's where, not to like harp on the list too much so we can continue, but like the ZX5 to me has always been a weird iron, but in a really good way, because I don't think it can be grouped with something like, Blueprint S or P7CB or T100. But I also wouldn't group it with like T200 or 770 or anything like that. Like it created this little middle ground of kind of like, hey, if you just need a little bit more help, but you're still going to hit it out of the center more often than not, here's an iron for you to play and be super happy with how good it looks, how easy it is to play, the ball speed that it's going to produce without being out of control. And like you said, this one got a little bit lower spin, but at the advantage of it also launches a little bit higher than the last generation did. So they did a good job balancing that out. But if you look at each one of these, other than maybe the ZX7, because you still have to be somebody that produces a little bit more speed with that one, the rest of this category so far, just as far as playability goes and overall performance, to me it's great because it produces enough ball speed for people that are going to mishit it, but it's not crazy enough that people who are getting up in age and used to be or still are fantastic ball strikers have such good options. Mikey even said at one point he thinks the T150 is an iron that, in 10 years, like we're all going to be talking about the launch of the T150. It's going to be one of those irons. And I think we're in the last 3 years have been like this really golden age of iron development, if you ask me.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think you're right. I mean, where you said that ZX5 kind of created its own little thing. I think the 150 did the same thing. It wasn't quite 770. It wasn't quite, P7CB. It wasn't T100. It just fit that certain like, niche of golfer, and it's really, really good. And yes, the TaylorMade P790s there. We haven't forgot about it. We are definitely going to talk about it a little bit more. But that one was interesting to me that talking to some of these fitters, how they mentioned the wide range of handicap, and they were actually talking about how these really low single digits were finding that iron to be very to be very desirable. And like you said, for a player really good player. Maybe probably played blades for a while, maybe played competitively, whatever it is. Well, now they're a little bit older. They don't quite hit it as far. And that's giving them some distance. But when you look down on it, I think the new 790 is a little slimmed down. And they're able to play, they kind of like that iron and it works for them. So, yeah, I think this whole category overall is just irons that you look at it and nobody would walk away and say, yeah, that's a bad iron. Like all of these are phenomenal. And then, so the thing I just literally came to me, we're going to do this before we move to the next category. Out of those 5, they say, Jake, you've got to play one of these irons all this year. You have to play one of them. Which is the one you would pick to go play?
Oh, out of those,
I literally just thought of this like right now, and I was like, "Ooh, that's good." So yeah, which one, would you have to game for the whole year?
I think anybody that knows me and follows me thinks that this is going to be the weirdest answer I could give, but it would probably be the T150.
Yeah.
That I think it's the only brand like currently downstairs in the garage that I don't have some sort of set of. But if I had to play, like if you told me out of those 5 I had to play one iron, I think it would be those, and I would definitely just do it as a full set. I would be confident 4-through pitching wedge in that, and probably actually play maybe even a little bit better golf than I'm playing right now.
And so the funny thing is, I thought, I was like, yeah, T150. That's like, I played when they first came out. I got fit into a set. I played them, but at the top end of the bag, I had 200s in there because I needed that extra speed for the gapping. So I think for me, I'd go ZXi5 because I think that at the top end, it fit my game the best. And the nice thing is the top end, even in the shorter irons, they look good enough where I'm not going to be like, oh man, I really wish I had 7s. Like, they're going to look good. They're going to feel good. They're going to do everything there. But at the top end, I'm going to need that help. So I think the ZXi5 would probably what I would choose. Thinking about it rationally, where, like you said, I think the T150 was the easy choice for me. But now I'm like, I think the ZXi would actually perform better if I had to game them. So
all right, there you go.
All right, so that was overall performance. So again, Srixon ZXi5, TaylorMade P790, Titleist T150, Ping i530, and Srixon ZXi7 were that for overall performance. Now the next category is not necessarily the GolfWRX audience. This isn't quite down their alley, but this is a category that I think has been bigger and bigger every time we talk to fitters, and it's interesting. Not only irons is this getting more and more popular, bigger. The driver side of it as well, because it seems like that part is blown up also. But these are the easiest to launch / like slower club head speed type irons, stuff that's great for that. And like I said, talking to these fitters, they're actually really excited about this category because they do so many fits with these irons and the advancements and the options. There's so much more there for those players who need it, where it used to be like maybe 5 irons, that was it. Now it's like every company's got 1 or 2 irons that fit into this. So the ones here are going to be the Mizuno JPX 925 Hot Metal HL, the TaylorMade QI HL, Callaway's Elite HL, the Ping G440 HL, and the only one that doesn't have an HL, the Titleist T350. So all irons there. Same thing. When you jump into these and you look at that list, one or two that kind of jump out to you of stuff that you've either really liked or maybe surprising, but 1 or 2 that jump into your mind real quick, right off the bat.
So the big one for me in this category, with a tiny bit of bias, I'm not going to lie, is the Mizuno 925 HL.
Yep.
And mostly because that iron, when I hit it the first time, I was shocked at how much it spun. Yeah. So it launches very, very easily. The entire design of these clubs is just to get the ball up in the air. It's really great for players that need help getting speed off the iron because they can't produce speed. And when you have such low speed, we all know the more you can just get the ball up, the better. But the thing that gets lost there is you get, 60, 65-year-old guys that are just trying to get the ball up in the air, and they cannot hold a green because it's going to land on the front and go to the back, because no matter what you do, unfortunately, golf gets to a certain point where it's just hard for some people to get the ball up in the air. Yep. And the way that these irons have been developed and how easy they are to launch really, really helps with that. I've done a lot where I think I have probably 3 or 4 guys at the club now that have gone through me for help, and I've put them into some sort of HL. A couple of them have the 925s. One of them went into Elite HL. And then one of them's son-in-law works for TaylorMade, so he got some QI 10 HLs or QI, QI HL. Yeah. I was gonna say there's no number on those. But it's an amazing category. But the 925 for me and the Elite was a really close second. Was just how they spin was super, super important. And granted, a 7-iron is still spinning, at 5,000. It's not. Yeah. It's still not spinning super far up, but 5,000 over 4,000 is a big difference on some of these irons. So really, really cool stuff from that. And that was a big story point too. I remember being at ECPC and talking to those guys about developing the HL series, and they were so focused on making sure that it spun a reasonable amount, let's call it. Yep. Because just obviously the design of the irons, the CG and stuff, it's going to be a little bit lower, but I hit it with my swing, which is so unnecessary for this category. And it shocked me how much it spun. It was so cool to see. I think my 7-iron apex with the with the 925 HL was also 130 feet. It was the ball just shoots straight up in the air. So, but yeah, it's such a cool category. Like I said, it's not my fit, but this is my favorite category of irons because I like the stuff that helps the most.
Yeah.
And this is by far and away the stuff that will help a golfer the most, whether you're a beginner or just somebody who just needs forgiveness and launch. Awesome, awesome, awesome category. And I think that's why, again, just to harp on it, you guys doing this with fitters is insanely cool because they see a lot of this category of golfer come in the bay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's funny, when you start getting into, we'll get into shot makers and they're like, well, I mean, I just don't see as many fits in here. Like, the usage. Now this one to me, the one that kind of jumped out first for me was the Titleist T350. Yeah. And I think only because a lot of these high launch irons, you'll see they'll actually start to bring some of the lofts back a little bit to help get the ball in the air. Like you said, add a little spin. Yeah. Loft makes a huge difference in both those categories. And to see the T350, which still has really strong lofts, but still able to find a spot in this category. And to your point, I hit that iron when the T-Series first came out, and I did my fitting I was being fit really for more T200, T150, but I hit this anyway just because let's just hit it, and was amazed at how high it launched in the air for having such strong lofts. And, that iron there just showing that, there's different ways to get, like we mentioned earlier, there's different ways for OEMs to pull levers to get these irons to do what they want them to do and to fit kind of the range of players that they want. And this one here was just, you can get a ton of distance out of it. Even the longer, if you're going to still play a 4-iron or 5-iron or 6-iron in that set, you can still hit it high in the air. It's going to match up well, but it's still got those stronger lofts, and you just don't see that as much in the high launch or HL categories. But that iron is really, really solid. And honestly, from address, it doesn't look super huge. I mean, it's got a little offset. The top line's a little thicker, but it's a good-looking iron, and it's a good-feeling iron. And that's the thing, too. You look at that, all 5 of these, and most people, when they had to play an HL iron, they had to kind of throw away feel. Like, this thing's just not going to feel good. It's going to be harsh. It's going to have a heavy click to it. It's just not going to be a great feeling iron. And a lot of these companies, not only performance-wise, hey, we got to make these things perform right, now they're starting to say, hey, this player doesn't want to hit something that doesn't sound and feel good too. They want, just like the better player wants a soft forging, whatever, they want good feel, good sound, and they're getting it from these irons as well. And that's another big thing that it may not have, you may not see that on the launch monitor, but it's definitely going to impact the amount of enjoyment you have out of this set of irons. So T350, and then, like you mentioned, the QIHL, they some people will say like, oh, well, it's kind of the same iron as last year. It's not much different, or the previous gen. And it is, but it was a really good iron then.
Yeah,
and
they didn't have to do much. Yeah,
exactly. Like they kind of took almost the Strixon type approach where it's like, it's not broken. So, you don't need to fix it. Let's just, have a little tweak. And what they did with removing kind of like that mash from the toad and move it around and all that is pretty cool on that iron. So, and like you said, the Elite HL, it was amazing kind of even fitters, even though the regular Elites, aren't in this list, but how many people were just really high on that whole line of irons with the HL.
They did a great job.
They said the HL, just a really, like you said, fantastic iron for that player who just needs it. So, a great category, an extremely popular category. And, the Ping G440 HL, I think, last year we saw it with the 430. People, a lot of fitters really loved having the ability to, make that 440, which already launches high and is easy to hit, make it even more so. And that one there, a lot of praise from fitters across the country there on that iron. So, really good category, really popular category, probably one that you'll see probably more irons than some of the others. The easiest launch, again, Mizuno JPX 925 Hot Metal HL, the TaylorMade QI HL, Callaway's Elite HL, the Ping G440 HL, and the Titleist T350. So I'm going to do it again. Let's do it again. If you had to play one, you had to game it. And I know this isn't, especially for you, this is not, if you don't know Jake, he does carry a little bit of speed, so he's a younger lad. But if you had to play one of these, like, what would be the one you would pick to go play if you had to game it?
Ooh, probably the Elite HL, because I think for me, it's the best combination of, like, as usable as it could get for a guy like me.
Yeah.
But also, I just think that, the one thing about this category too, and I think the Titleist in this specific thing actually wins out, is a lot of these irons you're going to hit in the bay, and they're going to hit 3 of these 5 irons probably in a fitting, and then they're going to make their decision on bag appeal. And I think the 350 wins out in bag appeal. The Elite is really close. It does look really good. It doesn't look terrible in the bag. But there is a little bit of, there's a little bit of country club ego involved in that decision too, of like, I don't want guys to know that I'm playing big old chonkers in my bag, right? But I would have to go. I'd go Elite HL. That'd be my choice out of this category.
Yeah, I think I'd go hot metal HL, the 925. I think what they did with that iron in terms from the 923 series, in terms of slimming it down a little bit, a little less offset. The top line seemed to be maybe just a little bit thinner, but I mean it's still there. Just overall, and the sound and feel of it are just really, really good. You know, it's probably the closest thing you'll get to kind of a forged feeling in an iron. And I like the look of the new one, so I think that would probably be the choice I would go with there. But I mean, all these are really, really solid. So that is the easiest to launch / slower swing speed category. Now the next one, Pure Enjoyment, is kind of an iron that you're looking at for people who just they want to go. It kind of puts more of an emphasis on forgiveness. You know, stuff that you want to be able to just easily hit straight, get it in the air, goes far. It's kind of effortless. You know, that's kind of the point. Just stuff that, you know, if you threw it in the bag, you knew you wouldn't have to practice as much in a sense. You could still just go hit it. It's just really easy to use. So the Pure Enjoyment category is the TaylorMade P790, the Srixon ZX I5, Mizuno JPX 925 Hot Metal, the Titleist T200, and the Ping G440. So, what here jumps out at you is something you like, or you know you've been impressed with over this year testing stuff out.
I think the surprising one in this category when I saw it was the ZXi5. You know, if you compare it to the rest of what was chosen in this category, it's not in the same category as those other ones, which is it's again testament to Srixon. Major props to them for the development of that set of irons. Now part of that, I gotta say, I think is a little bit of, I would imagine that the ZXi4 probably doesn't get pulled off the wall as much as the 5 does. And then when that happens, I think a lot of people fit into the 5 and they hit it well enough that there's no reason to try the 4. If we talk about underrated irons, just, sidebar on this whole thing, I think the ZXi4 is one of the most underrated irons on the market, but the ZXi5 is so good that it kind of just gets like overlooked a lot. I think in this one, the P790 this is where it really, really shines. Like when I hit those, and you and I were talking about this a little bit before we started too, like the P790 is such an interesting iron because it 100% started the category that it lives in. It's been the leader in fitting bays in that category for, I don't know, how many years has the P790 been on your guys' list, right? Like it's there. It's been a staple since 17 when it came out. And it really is just a fun iron to hit. Ironically, I have a Mizuno 925 Hot Metal 7 iron in my bag as my like warm-up club because it is so easy and it's so effortless to hit. It's not, I wouldn't say that one is as playable for people as the P790. I think you probably will fall into two different categories with those golfers. But I have it in my bag as a warm-up club because I can go out there and the first 6 swings I take on the range that are, half speed, half awake, that kind of thing. It just, the ball goes up and kind of far. So it just makes you feel good, right? Like you get out there and it's like, okay, I can hit the ball today. And then I go back to my normal clubs and it actually has genuinely helped like confidence. And it's taken my range warm-ups from, 50 or 60 swings to like 20 and I'm out. So the iron is, I like what you guys called it, right? Like just overall like enjoyment is awesome. Yeah, it's a crazy category. I think Srixon it's an interesting one to have thrown in there, that ZXi5. But it's very well deserving. There's no doubt about it. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, the one that jumped out at me kind of in the same vein of like, does it really belong? To me, it was T200. Because to me, I look at that as kind of a little bit more players focused. I would have thought 350 makes it here instead of high, the slower swing speed or high launch. I would have thought 350 made it here, but T200, I mean, I think same thing. It shows a testament to Titleist making an iron that not only do you see it as a utility iron out on tour, but you're going to see that in bags of scratch players, guys who are playing for club championships, to 100%. Players who are just out there to have fun. Hey, like I just want to go up there. I want something that I can just go hit. And, when I'm out there with the boys having a beverage or whatever. And the T200 is. I mean, I've got it in some long irons in my set. And it is. I mean, that 5 iron is easy to hit, compared to the T150 even. It is definitely just easy to hit. It gets in the air effortlessly. It goes a little bit straighter. It's got a little bit more speed. But that iron to me was just, that one I thought maybe the 350 makes it in instead, but that 200 is really solid. And then the G440. I mean, no list that you have out there in terms of irons should not include a G series iron. I think this is the best looking G iron that they probably
100%.
made in a long time. Even from just the back of it, when it's sitting on a shelf in a store or shop, or a fitting bay, like you kind of gravitate towards it. That little bit of chrome, that new badge on the back, it just looks really, really good. And then when you set it down, it's been slimmed down a little bit. It's not a huge chunky iron anymore. It definitely looks like something that, even a lower handicap player is going to set down and be like, man, this looks good behind the ball. And then you hit it and you go like, dude, I can hit it anywhere on the face. The ball speed doesn't drop. The launch still stays there. The spin's consistent. It's just like one of those things where I can put any swing I have on it and I'm going to get a pretty good result out of it. And, and the same thing, they've also kind of refined. I think Ping's done a good job with across the board on everything, refining sound and feel a little bit too. So the new G440, a little bit softer, a little better feel. But yeah, these are just, those are the two that kind of jumped out at me. And again, I think you're right. ZX5 is kind of interesting. From what I've heard from fitters, a lot of people to the ZXi4 is it doesn't quite launch as high, they're not seeing, as the previous one. It was what I got from a lot of them, which was that probably would have made it here had it been very similar to last year. But this year it's coming out just a little bit flatter, and it's not quite spinning as much, and they're not finding as much success with it as they did with last year. So that's the one thing I heard, coming from a couple people. But again, that 925 hot metal, just like I said about the HL, really did some nice stuff with the looks of it. Slimmed it down, took some of the offset out of it. Because when 923 came out, that whole hot metal series, I was just kind of like, man, these are kind of on the bigger side. They're a little chunky. Is the right player going to want to play them? And now the 925, they took a lot of that out. They definitely went back, and the performance was always there with 23, but now 25 performs and it looks better. So there's not an iron on here that you look at that you were like, if somebody gave me a set of these, threw them in the bag, no warm ups, no practice, hit the first tee and just go play. There's not an iron here that you would say like, "Ooh, boy, this is that first iron shot's going to be a little iffy." Like you're like, "Yeah, no problem. Like I'm going to hit a good shot."
No, not at all. And I think too, like when you talk about T200 or the G440 stuff, like it's funny because I've talked to some fitters that are friends of mine and stuff, and G440 is a funny one. G series in general is a funny one because like Ping has almost hurt themselves in fitting bays by always being so consistent, because fitters will be like, do I really got to give this guy is this the 17th customer of the week that I got to give a set of G440s to, so then it turns into like, okay, I'm going to try to grab something that's not a G440 and let's see how it works. But it just, again, that's Ping, man, right? Like that is Ping's bread and butter. That series, as much as Ping has a really good tour presence, they've got a lot of irons and bags that they don't pay for, stuff like that. Like that G series is Ping. Like that is the heart of Ping. That golfer is going to be a Ping G series golfer. Most of them will keep them for 8 years, and then it's just an automatic upgrade into the next one. So cool. And then T200 is an interesting one. I'm actually super, super pumped. Hopefully, we would imagine it'd be this fall, but I've heard a lot from some Titleist, like local fitters and just regional guys, and then also a couple fitters and then a couple Titleist players, that I'm hoping that T200 actually separates itself a little bit more, because I think what happened with this iteration is the T150 kind of encroached on T200 a little bit, where there became this like slight overlap where T200, for some golfers, it was like, well, you might as well play the 350. And then for other golfers, it was like, well, instead of doing a combo set, let's just play 150s, because you're still getting the ball speed you need at the top end. So for T200 to still have enough presence to be in a category is really, really cool for that iron. I also think that it's a testament to you guys doing this list with fitters, because it's so much different than what you see with tour testing or with just, let's gather 30 random handicaps and do a club test. It's really, really cool to see fitters still pulling that off the bay, because it's I think it's a little bit more siloed into a category than it was in the previous generation, because the 150 didn't exist, right?
Yeah.
Because the 100S is not the 150. Like a lot of people, they want to make that. It's not the 150. The 150 is, just bounds and leaps above the 100S. So it's cool, but I'm hoping that the 350 category, or the 300 category, let's call it, kind of stays in its lane, and it does a really good job doing what it's doing. And I actually would love for the T200 to compete more with the 790 than the 770, because I think the 150 actually does a really good job of competing with a CB, but also with the 770, similar to how the ZXi5 does. So interested to see what happens this fall with Titleist.
Yeah, no, that you're definitely right. I mean, and a lot of these brands, I think, getting into some of these categories, and there is a lot of gray area between a lot of them, especially players' distance. I mean, that seems like it spreads wide of what type of iron fits into that category from different manufacturers. So you're probably right. I mean, something that does push itself a little bit away, maybe adds a little bit more speed or something like that, a little more focused on that side of the 200, could be something that's really interesting, and then even fit into this category even more so. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right, so that's pure enjoyment. Again, TaylorMade P790, Srixon ZXi5, Mizuno JPX 925 Hot Metal, Titleist T200, and Ping G440. So the next one is kind of the GolfWRXer's paradise here. This is the category that everybody kind of loves, but it's we call it shot makers. We used to call it kind of like players club, but again, as you kind of mentioned, the silos of different iron descriptions, whether it's game improvement, super game improvement, players distant, whatever, has kind of grayed over the years as things have evolved. So we kind of call it shot makers, and we let kind of the fitter decide, what better player iron would fit in here, and that's what it's focused on. Players who want to kind of work the ball, maybe flight it down, up, hit it right to left on purpose, not just hit it left, uncontrollably. But for players who are better players, skilled players who are looking to do a little bit more with their golf ball than just try to hit it straight and get it onto the center of the green. So for shot makers, we start out Srixon ZXi7, the Titleist T100, TaylorMade's P7CB, the Mizuno Pro S3, and the Ping Blueprint S. So jumping in, when you look at these shot makers irons, which one kind of jumps out as you of something that's a great iron for Jake's game?
So these, two of these are battling hard for my bag right now. So I have the most dialed in set of P7 CBs that I think exists on the planet right now. I did I think I went down and saw LaRoche with them. So I've been dying for the P7 CB. I was a huge TaylorMade Tour Preferred guy, 2012, 2014. And then literally since those irons, it's been a struggle to find the right iron until the Cobra King CB, which I think is the snub in this category, by the way. I'm going to throw that out there. I think the Cobra King is the snub here. But that P7 CB went back to that shape. It took everything that we hated about the MC and the lack of, popularity of the MC, I'm going to just straight up say, and it gave them what everybody asked for in that P7 CB or 760-ish category. So cool, but hot damn, do those Mizuno S3s feel just so good, man. Like, amazing. It's without a doubt, it's a little bit more forgiving than I think it actually deserves to be. If you look at the shape, I don't know exactly what they did with the internal structure of that iron, but it's way more forgiving. It is a very short blade length. It's a little bit, this is a stout little guy, but man, do those feel good. So for me, it's in between those. I think that the P7 CB is just a rejoicing moment for TaylorMade of thank you for giving us a CB back, because we'd been missing it for so long. And that MC was just never it. From the first release of the P7 MC, it just wasn't it. I mean, it never got enough tour presence other than Nelly, and it just didn't do what that category of iron should do. So many players just went into the MB because the MC was it just wasn't fast enough. It wasn't forgiving enough. And at that point, you might as well take the soul of the MB or the TWs, right? And we see that on tour. But yeah, right now, I actually just yesterday threw the S3's full set in the bag, went and hit a couple balls, and just I thought my bag was good. I thought the P7 CBs were in, but that changed as of 12 hours ago. That adjusted. So because damn, we've talked about it a bunch actually. You and I have texted each other and been hit the S3s again. Damn, these feel good, right?
Very good. I agree. I think they're the best feeling iron. I mean, they're probably the best feeling iron of the year in terms of
Yeah.
new releases.
Fully
Um,
agree.
and I was a little shocked to made on this only because it hasn't been out that long. You think about
Yeah.
The fewer fits that are done on the shot makers category, and this iron just came out a couple months ago. I mean, it wasn't something that was brand new, right at kind of launch with everything else. And to see it make it, I think is pretty huge. The P7CB, I think you're 100% right, makes bounds and leaps better than the MC. The sole design, the turf interaction is 1,000 times better. They went to that leading edge is a little bit more round, a little softer. That sole seems to have a little bit more camber to it. It just doesn't dig. You can play it in softer conditions and stuff like that. So, but yeah, the two that I think, especially between my own hitting them and talking to some of these fitters, the Srixon ZXi7, which I know we talked about already, but, for an iron, for a small compact CB, forged CB, it offers a little playability. You don't have to be like S3. You got to be pretty exact. Like you said, it's a little bit more forgiving than what it is. But it kind of leans a little bit more to the blade side when you look in terms of forgiveness. I think 100%. ZXi7 is a little bit away from it, and it gives you a little bit playability. And the same thing with Blueprint S. I think Blueprint S, very stable. You hit it a little bit off the toe or the heel, you're going to have a shot that actually does all right. It doesn't go offline too far. And it actually maybe even has a little bit of speed. Like those two irons maybe have just a touch of speed, which, again, these are solid-faced, CBs. Yeah. But you do notice a little bit of ball speed difference between some of them. And I think those two offer a little bit more playability for the player that's like maybe on the edge of between a player's distance and a CB. Those two, maybe they can kind of play, where the S3, on a bad day, that's going to be a little bit of a struggle. And the same thing with the 100. The T100 is one of the most popular irons on tour. Yeah. And it's phenomenal in terms of its feel. It's actually, like you said with the S3, a little bit more forgiving than you think it would be at its size. Yeah. But it's still, it's still a little demanding. But on the flip side, for the player who wants to work it and hit different shots, it's going to allow you to do all those things. And these things, the one thing they all kind of have in common is distance control. They're consistent. When you hit these on the center or close to it, you're going to get shots that repeatedly the same distance, the same spin, the same launch angle. Like, it just doesn't fluctuate when you hit it solid with any of these irons. And I think that's the one thing in common that all five of these have, is just like on a solid strike, you just know, like, hey, if my 7-iron for me is 160, I'm getting 160 or 159 or 161. Like, I'm getting that number every time. And all of these, I think you get that. Like, I don't think any of them you have like, ooh, well, if you catch it a little high in the face, that spin really drops and it goes, 167. Like, you don't get that shot out of these irons. Like, they perform really well. And like I said, the Blueprint S is one that, I've got a set, sitting over there, and it's like, that's playable for me. And it shouldn't be really, but it is. And, like I said, I like all these in here. The S3, like I said, I love the actual feel. I mean, I absolutely love them. It's probably the one that I probably, out of all of them, is probably the one I can't play, the most, especially in the top end. I just don't think I bring enough speed. But in terms of the other thing too is set any one of these down and you're going to be like, yeah, that looks good.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
Not one of these do you sit there and go, man, that doesn't look right, or it's got too much offset or whatever. Like, they all look really, really good. And for better players, there's nothing here that I would say is bad. I would say if you need a little bit more launch, ZXi7 probably launches the highest out of the 3 or out of the 5. But other than that, I mean, they're phenomenal. So a really, really good category in terms of these irons here. And like you said, and how you mentioned things shifting, that MC, play the MB. What was the difference between TaylorMade's P7 MC and MB? It was like there's no difference. So
it was, I don't like. I've talked to the guys at TaylorMade about it, and it's kind of like a, they don't want to agree, but they agree that it's just like, that one was a miss. Like, that one didn't go the way they thought it was gonna go. But then what was so funny about that is, like, then they came out with a new one. And it didn't change. It was like, wait, hold on. We all agree that this did not go the way we thought it was going to go. And then we got a new one. And it was like, come on. Like, we had to wait 4 years for the CB. And just, that was just a crazy move. But we're extremely happy with the P7 CB. So happy with that one. So looks-wise, like you said, I think that Blueprint S, for some reason, man, and it sucks because everybody I talk to, like all my buddies and stuff, they're like, yeah, dude, Blueprint S is so good. So I can't hit a Blueprint S for the life of me. And I don't know what it is because they look so gorgeous behind the ball, like just so good. I think the Blueprint S out of this category too, the only downgrade I would give to the Blueprint S, other than the fact that I personally, for some reason, cannot hit it, is it's a little bit firmer than the rest of this category. I think that would be the only thing to say. Like if you put S3 as, you know, soft, you know, and then I think there's a little bit of competition between the Titleist, the TaylorMade, and the Srixon for, you know, feel, and then I think that ping is just a little bit firmer. But there with good reason. Like if you look at the design of that club, it makes a little bit of sense why it's just a little bit firmer. But yeah, just what an incredible category of irons. I think I said when last fall when some of this stuff started coming and we started realizing that the CB category was being rejuvenated across the board, I was so happy because this category is just so good. And for a long time, the industry was so focused on hollow body development that like the CB category was kind of ignored. And the CBs that we did get were a little bit too distancy than CB, right? Like ZXI 5, for example, we just talked about it, or T150 is not CB, right? It's a little bit past that. Even the Mizuno Pro 243, like that thing has way too much performance in it to compete with a P7 CB or with the Blueprint S or something like that. So to get S3 and to get P7 CB and to get a refined T100, like it's such a good category of irons. I'm going to say it again. Super Cobra snub on this one, fitters. And I know that part of the reason for that is not every fitter has Cobra irons in their matrix, right? Like it's one of the ones that when you're a fitter and you got to deal with the financials and the business side of things, does it make sense to carry? Are you going to grab that off the wall for most players that want the top 4 brands? You know, like it all makes sense. It all makes sense.
Yep.
Super snub though. Super snub on the Kings TV. I got you. Super snub here.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I'll say the snub on this one, which I was gonna go back at the end, and we'll kind of do stuff that got snubbed. But yeah, I mean, I kind of looked at the Apex CB. I thought that in terms of shaping, to my eyes, perfect, like one of the best looking because I like a little more roundness in the iron and all that. But I thought that one was a really good iron. I know it's not quite as forgiving; it kind of slides a little more towards MB a little bit, but I thought that was a really good feeling, solid performance. I love the sole on it. That did really well, but that didn't make it here, but.
Agree with you.
Another great category. Again, shop makers: Srixon ZXI 7, Titleist T100, TaylorMade P7 CB, the Mizuno Pro S3, and the Ping Blueprint S. So we'll move into our last category, which is most technology packed. So these are irons that just, when fitters look at it, what performs at a kind of a crazy level, what's doing things that nobody else is really doing yet, what's kind of pushing the limits of what they can kind of get out of a fitting for a lot of players. And, this one here, there's a lot of great irons. And, we'll see again, the TaylorMade P790, the Callaway Apex Tie Fusion, Cobra 3DP Tour, the Srixon ZXI 5, and the Callaway Apex AI 200. So an interesting list of some stuff we've already talked about, some brand new stuff, and some stuff that is definitely kind of out there in terms of doing things a little bit different. So I know which one I think when I ask you what is the one that you want to talk about first. I have a feeling I know what it is. But same thing. What kind of jumps out at you, this category of stuff that like you're just like, that is a great iron.
The Cobra, the Cobra 3DP Tour, man. So I actually texted the Cobra guys when I got that set. I went out and played it, and I got back from that, and I didn't adjust them. Like I didn't check my lofts and lies. I just went and played whatever got sent to me, and I texted them, and I was like, I am now rethinking every iron I have ever played.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't understand how what is happening on some of these strikes. Like, and that's and part of the benefit for this category is like taking irons out that maybe aren't in your loft and lie spec and seeing what happens to that, because you're not going to hit the ball out of the center every time. So it's like an accidental benefit of, rushing into my testing is it was so cool to see how that iron handles the entire face of the iron. and in the package that it gives you. I think that's the one thing that has going for it, that it beats out the Thai Fusion for coolness, because the Thai Fusion, when it got released, was just the hots, right? Like what they did with that thing to make it as, you know, as fast and as easy to launch and as player friendly as they can in that sort of package was so cool. And then Cobra was like, yeah, but wait,
Yeah.
you know,
Even
it was like,
smaller.
we can actually make it a little bit smaller. We can actually make it a little bit more forgiving. You and I have had opposite experiences with speed between those two irons, because for me, the Thai Fusion is a missile launcher, and my Cobras stay relatively on par with what the other things that I hit. Like the difference between the 3DP Tour and my King CBs for me is not much. Like it might be a mile an hour, and they look almost the same. Like it's wild how they do it. And then to give credit where credit is due, I think Thai Fusion and 3DP Tour in this category are going to be the ones to talk about, just because if you look at, you know, just technology packed, like the other companies are putting good technology into their stuff. That's awesome. But like it's not an innovation to something. It's an adjustment into an already successful design, like you know, like the 5 from Strict Sound, or like the Callaway stuff. The one credit I gotta give is getting AI Smart Face into an iron lineup was
pretty cool.
Insane. Yeah. And it works, right? Like there's not a single person or a fitter or anybody who's tested that Callaway lineup that will say that AI Smart Face is a hoax or marketing thing. Like AI Smart Face works so well. It's just not as cool as an iron that was printed out of metal powder, you know? Like, sorry.
I mean, it is. I mean, and I agree. I think the 3DP Tour is, I mean, it's hard to say. Like, it's just something that it shouldn't happen, and it does. And you know, the kind of the excitement for the next thing that comes from there. You know, whether it's maybe a big game improvement iron that's just is insanely straight and stable, but you know, for a club that when you set it down looks like a CB or even a blade. I mean, it's cool. That compact. But to be as stable as it is on mishits, produce the kind of consistent ball speed and spin numbers and all that, it's shocking. And for me, it's about a half club longer, and I think that's only because I strike it so much better on that iron that it's a little bit longer than some other irons for me. And I agree, Thai Fusion, I mean, to mix a titanium face, steel body, tungsten, I mean, all the stuff that put together, and it sounds and feels good. Yeah. That is a little bit shy, because you would expect, like, okay, cool, it's got all this tech, it's not, you know, got all these pieces, but man, it's going to sound tingy or weird or whatever.
Right. It's going to sound like I'm hitting a rock. Yeah.
And it's super soft, and it's just that. And the same thing, I think it kind of goes a little unnoticed, especially with this group. P790. I mean, I was fortunate enough where I got the exploded heads when they first sent them out of even just the previous version, and the like kind of intricate machining work internally where they move that weight and that tungsten, and every head is designed a certain way to get a CG in a certain spot. You don't see it because the back just looks kind of blade-ish, but inside there, along with that speed foam air, is a pretty intricate, like, super milling structure, all that. There's like honeycomb patterns. I mean, you name it. There's some really cool stuff going on inside there that, again, like it does really work. Like you go hit the 4-iron in the P790 and it actually gets up in the air. It's easy to hit. It goes a long way. It spins. Where I thought previous versions of 790 before they went to that, then the 4-iron, to me, it came out a little flat because it was so strong lofted. It didn't quite get as high and all that. And now, you know, you get an iron set that's really playable, even though it's probably one of the longest out there. And yeah, the AI 200, again, like I said, I mean, putting smart face and stuff, and AI 200, while I don't know if it'll be as iconic as previous Apex models, you know, that just have cult followings, this one is extremely straight. It feels good, and the ball goes a long way. I mean, it does everything that Apex is kind of known for, doing those things. It's got a little bit more offset. It's a little bigger than the previous versions kind of have been. But overall, I love the sole design on it. They kind of went to that pre-worn leading edge, that little bit of trailing edge relief, so the turf interaction is really good on it. It keeps that leading edge down, so you get a little better center contact, because, you know, any OEM and fitter will tell you, I mean, most strikes are low in the face when it comes to irons. So having something that helps get that up in the center a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the one that doesn't have like the crazy stories is the XI5. But really, again, you look into it and it's got, the rebound frame. They're starting to, forge things in different ways to get strength out of it. Again, it's kind of like, 790. You just don't see what they're doing, but they're doing a lot to it. And, those are the things where the other ones, 3DP Tour, yes, you can see the lattice on the back and all that. Like, it's super cool. Yeah. But those, those others have some cool stuff going on with them that does perform. And I do have to say the same thing. When you look at this set of irons, or these 5 irons, all of them perform really, really well. Like, there's not one of them that you go, yeah, maybe it's not quite that much better than the one it, replaced. They all are really, really good, and they fit a wide range of players. Like, Thai Fusion will fit anybody from a scratch. I mean, any one of these, pretty much. I mean, I think AI 200 would be the one that you go, you know what, maybe the 5 and belows don't play it, just because of the size and the look. But if you're basically a 0 to a 20, you can play any one of these irons. Almost. Yeah. 20 might be pushing it with Thai Fusion or with 3DP Tour a little bit. But any other one of these, I think you could be a scratch player all the way up to fairly high. Let's call it 15, and you play any one of these irons, and it'll perform really well.
Yeah, the crazy thing that I saw out of both Thai Fusion and 3DP Tour, and I think the reason why we don't see crazy stories about P790 or ZXi5, even though there is a ton of technology, is that story is told in performance. But the 3DP Tour and the Thai Fusion, the story is told in the technology. So when you think of, from a messaging standpoint to the customer, what are they hearing first? They're not hearing about the performance of 3DP Tour. They're hearing about the construction and the tech of 3DP Tour. Same thing with Thai Fusion, right? The whole story was all about, look what we did. And then it was like, oh yeah, by the way, it does perform really well. We didn't just do something and that was it. Whereas P790 is like, look how good this thing performs. And also, let's take a look at the inside so I can show you why it's doing that. So it's just the way the messaging was. But with 3DP Tour and Thai Fusion, the thing that I noticed the most, and I've had a lot of people hit my 3DP Tours, it does such a good job of somehow matching up characteristics regardless of who's swinging it. And that was the biggest thing to me. It's like when somebody slower swings them, it maintains a really good amount of spin and launch. But when somebody fast swings them, it doesn't go crazy in spin or in height. It kind of the way the club gets delivered, it's almost as if the internal lattice system and the way that it doesn't flex on the inside, but the way that the lattice system has just a slight shift on impact depending on the speed you put onto it, it just seems like it somehow the iron is you make contact and it goes, okay, this is the speed that we just hit this ball. Now we need to do this. And it just happens. And it's so crazy to me because that's a huge thing for fitters. It's a big deal to give slower players, we talked about it before, to give slower players an iron that they can still hit and they're going to hit out of the middle. But the sacrifice is usually that slow players don't generate enough spin. So you need something that's going to generate a little bit more spin. But when you generate more spin, you typically don't generate the launch that they need. So it's it did all this stuff. And Thai Fusion too, right? Both of them. It just seems like the iron responds to whoever hits it so well. I have no idea how it's happening, but I'm very happy that it is.
Yep, it's a very cool category because not only are you have some really awesome irons, it's kind of showing what the future may bring, coming down the line, and as these technologies get, because let's be honest, out of those, Thai Fusion and 3DP Tour are not cheap irons. They're exceptionally expensive compared to the others. But as that technology comes down and starts being used more and all that, we can really see some cool stuff coming from from these companies. And it just also goes to show that, people always say clubs are done, they can't do anything else. And it's just wait. Just wait till this manufacturing catches up to the ideas that they're working on in R&D, and stuff like, those irons is going to be more commonplace. And we're going to definitely see some big leaps and some big jumps through all the categories. So out of that one there, I pretty much probably know your answer, but what if you had to play one goes in the bag? I think we're both probably on the same page on this one.
Yeah, Cobra 3DP tours.
Yeah, same here.
For sure. Yeah.
I've got a set as well. I'm really hoping they become my gamers. We'll see. I mean, I got to get them on the course a little bit more, but on the range and off the mats and my net, I mean, they're absolutely fantastic. So
Yeah.
expecting good things. So that is Mo Technology Packed, TaylorMade P790, Callaway Apex Tie Fusion, Cobra 3DP Tour, Srixon ZXi5, and Callaway Apex AI 200. So before we finish this up, which those are all the categories, that is done. I do want to say snubs. I want to say, give me like 2 or however many you got, but give me like, for maybe 2 of the categories. What do you think are the biggest snubs that kind of jump out to you? If you've got 2, 3, 1, whatever you got. I know you kind of mentioned the one with the Cobra CB, but you can talk about that a little bit more.
For sure.
But yeah, let's each kind of go through and what's a snub that you can think is like, wow, that one probably should have been there.
Yeah, I mean, so Cobra King CB for me is the big one. The MB2, honestly, I think that
great.
the 2 of those is, and there's now, I don't know if there was a single, no, there was no blades on this entire list, right? And that's a hard one, right? Because fitting bays and blades don't necessarily go together, right?
No.
Like, if a guy's a blade guy, that fit's going to take about 4 minutes. It's not, does it look right? Does it feel okay? And then does the same launch window that pretty much every blade is going to play work for you?
Yep.
So it's hard to say that got snubbed because there was no real place for it. But the King CB, I have told so many people, I have such a incredibly biased, over infatuation with that set of irons, to the point that I've had 3 sets of those irons. I have my bag that I left in California at a buddy's house has CBs in it that I didn't want to take apart. So then I got a different one, and it ended up being a combo set of CBMB. And then I wanted to switch shafts, but didn't want to take those apart. So then I got a black set and made a black set of another combo of CBMB. It's the shape of that iron is so attractive. It's a little bit longer heel to toe, a little bit higher than you would think of a typical, like a P7 CB for some reason, but It's a little bit thinner on the top line. And the way the sole is worked out, it's almost a wide sole iron. There's not a ton of grind to it. There's a little bit of leading edge relief, but it's a fairly nice, just cambered, very softly wide sole CB. And just as you hit the ball and it goes through the turf, it just seems to launch so well. Other snubs, though, I think there's a couple that I don't know that they got snubbed, but it's almost like the companies themselves have taken that iron out of contention because of other things being so good. I think the biggest example of that is P770. I think P770, it's so hard to put somebody into that iron because it's so good, but at the point you put somebody in a 770, especially with the new look and feel of the 790, it's why not just play the 790? It's so hard for people to get fit into that 770, even though it's such a great iron. The new look of it is so good. It's almost a P7 CB package, but with P790 kind of bounds and performance. But it's the 5 or 8%, whatever when you want to call it, forgiveness that you lose off of a P790. When you set them down, it's just so hard not to say oh, I'm going to take that 8% and I'm just going to play the 790. Right?
Oh yeah, totally.
The same thing with the ZXi5. I think there's a reason that one was in such a category, but that to me is Srixon kind of, they kind of bastardized the 4. Whereas TaylorMade went the other way, right? They took the top one and bastardized the lower one, and the ZXi5 took over the top one. Yeah. So it's cool, and you also have to imagine, these are fitter things. So, at most in a fitting bay, we're talking probably 3, maybe 4 options if you're lucky. So it's a really big testament to some of these. We see P790 on the list so much, and that's where a fitter might be. They might look at that and go, well, I'm not going to give this guy the 770 because I think we're just going to end up in the 790. You hit the 790 and it's so phenomenally good that it's we don't need to hit the 770. There's no argument between the fitter and the player. You look at the data and you're like, okay, yeah, we're sold, So it's going to be interesting to see how companies react to that, because I think that's going to be the next story, is that 770 category of iron. The player for that does exist 100%. Like, that player is out there, but how are these companies going to make that category great again is going to be so interesting. Like, I think the other one that, you know, might have been left off this list is Mizuno Pro 245.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like, but
Yeah,
everything I've heard about Mizuno Pro 245 is always that it's too good, right? Like, it goes for this player that, like, you know, they probably should be 245, but they end up in 243 because the 245 is just too much, right? Like, they made it too good in the category that it's supposed to, wink wink, fall into, where I think, you know, like, the difference between 245 and Hot Metal Pro, for example, is probably not as far off as it should be, where the difference between 245 and 243 is very large. Like, combo setting 245, 243, almost impossible. You got to do some freaky stuff to one of those irons to make them fit.
Yep.
But it's so good. It's just like, for the player that hits the ball really well, it's way too much. For the person that needs a ton of help, it's not the right size package for that visual, and it's not enough offset for that visual. So again, like, 245, 770, kind of chilling in that bucket of, like, phenomenal, so good, but also, like, I don't know who to give this to.
Yep.
It's so hard, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. I would say, I mean, I'm going to go with a little, you know, I'm going to go slightly more obscure. And this one here, only because I think most fitters probably don't have it. In shot makers, I would say Wilson Staff Model CB.
100%.
Everyone who hits that iron absolutely loves it. The shape is phenomenal. It's super soft. It's, you know, kind of like some of these other ones in that category. It's playable. You know, you don't have to be, you know, dead on every single shot. You know, I don't love the full chrome on it. It's a little glary, but I mean, the overall performance, feel, everything in terms of shot makers, that club does it. And it does it really, really well. I think that one just comes down to access. You know, like you said,
availability. Yeah.
Not every fitter can have every single product out there in golf. There's just too many. But that one, I think, is just such a good one that if more people had it, I think you'd see it in more fits. And then the other one, which I'm going to kind of throw out there, that's going to be, again, a little bit obscure. I think under pure enjoyment, you could take something like Tour Edge's C725. Now, I know, again, same thing, access. Not many people have it. That's a really good iron that kind of plays in that it kind of plays that in-between game. Like, you know, it's not quite a 770, but it's not quite a 790. But I tell you what, that thing sounds and feels better than you'd expect. It's really soft with like the Vibram or Vibracore inserts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It looks pretty good. Now it's a little more rounded off, all that. But that face on it, that, you know, diamond face they have, actually produces some good ball speed. But it's a small package. It does really well. And I think that one is one that if you just strictly go on performance, you forget, like, hey, they're not the big name like a lot of these others. I think that one you could kind of throw in pure enjoyment for the slightly better player. And they'd really enjoy playing it. I think it would be easy to hit. It's got distance to it. It looks good from address. I mean, everything about it. Like, okay, the cavity's a little wild, but that's just what it is. But those two irons, I think, you know, a little bit of a snub, and I think it's only because of access. I think the same thing, you know, if you started going down to, you know, some of the direct-to-consumer and some of that stuff, you could probably also use some of those. But again, they're not 100%. In fitting bays. So the other one that I was really, because I think I like it so much, is the JPX 925 forged, but I don't know where I would put it because it's not quite shot makers. It's a little too hot for that. It's got a little more to it, but in terms of pure enjoyment, I don't know. It might be a little demanding for that category. So I think it kind of rides in between a little bit. And I think that's why that iron, as phenomenal as it is, maybe doesn't find a category, because it just, like some irons kind of encroach on each other. It just kind of rides in between a few, and you could see a little bit of it here, a little bit of it there.
100%.
You know, and it just doesn't fit one category right away.
Yeah.
But again, a really good iron for the little bit better player when it comes to something that gives you distance, stable, easy to hit, consistent. You know, it seems to be just a hair lower spinning than a couple other things I've hit, but it's not bad at all. And just a really good look. So that one there, I think it just sits in between. I just don't know where I'd put it. Even I don't know where I'd put it. Like if you said put it in one of the categories, I just don't know. I mean, I guess it would go enjoyment, but I feel like Hot Metal's a better choice there. You know, even Hot Metal Pro would be a better choice there. So, definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, I think that one too is another one. Like that's another perfect example of like how do you decide 245 or JPX Forge for a player, right? Yeah. Like it's like I don't know which one do you think looks cooler. Yeah, like or like if you want a black one, Forge.
JPX.
There we go. You know, like if that's your decision, cool. The only other question I would have for you, and I imagine that this was hard to add to the list at all because you know they pretty much yanked them from everybody, is I don't have any experience with this, but where would you put some of the PXG stuff in this? Right? Like, I think I've only heard good things about PXG iron testing from guys like you or Ian or Mikey or like all these guys, right? But it's hard because not a lot of fitting bays have PXG anymore because Parsons kind of yanked them from everybody, right? So if you're going to interview people that are fitters about PXG stuff, it's a PXG fitter. So what are they going to say? Every category is 4 PXG clubs, right? So it's tough. It's tough for this list now. But just, I mean, like let's throw that in there just real quick. Like, and I've got no experience, so I'm throwing this on you. Like, where does, you know, are there any categories where a PXG iron would really shine in something here?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two. I think pure enjoyment goes to the Gen 7. I think the Gen 7 packs an absolute it packs a ton of speed. It doesn't get crazy hot. Like it's not like, oh, this is the longest iron I've ever hit, but it's definitely long. It's easy to launch even at the stronger lofts. And of course, like PXG, it's polyurethane feel, or what is it? Yeah, polyurethane, or what is it? It's filled, and so it sounds and it sounds and feels really, really soft. I think that goes in pure enjoyment because I think size wise, when you look at the sole width and some of that, it is a little bit on the bigger side. The top line's thin, but when you get to the kind of like the 4 or 5 irons, you're going to see a little bit of that backing out of it. So I don't think you can put it really. I mean, it probably could fit in overall performance, but I feel like those irons have a little better look to them. But I think pure enjoyment, that Gen 7 could go there. And then, I mean, shot makers, I think the CB, the 0317 CB is probably, again, one of those most really underrated CBs. Good feel, the shape, especially if you like a little boxier, sharper toe. But the feel on it's phenomenal. I think the sole on it is designed really well. The turf interaction's solid. It gets through quickly. It doesn't dig too much. You know, it's got a decent amount of perimeter weighting. So a little bit like the P7 CB, I think it has, you know, a little forgiveness to it. You can keep a little ball speed when you miss. Those are the two that I'd throw in there. And then, you know, the easiest to launch, the Black Ops is pretty easy to launch. I don't know if it beats out anything there, though. Like, I mean, it's definitely easy to hit. I just don't know if it's necessarily something I would replace an HL for. It's probably close. But yeah, I mean, those two, the CB and the Gen 7, I could see making this list if they were more available. I mean, my favorite's the 0317T, but that again rides that line between shot makers and what else. Like, it doesn't really fit with the shot maker stuff because it's hollow body. Even though it's really thin hollow body, it's still hollow body. It's still got some speed. I don't know if it goes there. I think the CB is a better fit, but yeah, the Gen 7 could definitely be pure enjoyment, and the CB and shot makers, I think, definitely makes a run. I'd put that CB against almost any one of those CBs, and I think it holds up really, really well. Yeah,
it looks really nice. I'll tell you that. Yeah. Like every time I see a picture of it, it looks so good behind the ball. But yeah, no, that's interesting, right? It's hard, and you know, I think the way that you guys are doing the list is great. Like with the fitters, I think that's awesome. I also know, so you guys, in the fitters, like you give them a category and a description of the category, but you don't give them a list, right? Like there's no, you have to pick from these irons in this category.
So it's just a list of literally every iron out there.
Yeah, but it's not segmented like, hey, this is shot makers and you can only pick from these irons, right?
No.
Like, I think that's the coolest part of this list. Yeah, so like, that's, you know.
You could pick Hot Metal HL if you wanted to put it for shot makers. Like, it's in the drop down. So if you wanted to pick it, you could. And I'll tell you what, there are a few, as you go through the results, There's some interesting ones that you're kind of like, wow, that person, feels like this is an iron in this category where I wouldn't have necessarily put it there. And like, like we talked about a few irons like 770. Where does it kind of go? Those type of irons make it into different categories that, you'll be like, wow, okay, that's how they view this iron. Yeah, I view it as a totally different iron. So, but they have the freedom to pick whatever iron they want in any category. So, and then cool. These are what win. But yeah, there's some interesting ones that come through, and like I said, I think it's just how they view that iron and maybe who it's fit into in their bays, because that's the other thing too. Is like everybody's different, and that's why we try to get as many fitters as possible. Because some people will say, like, oh, well, this fitter is biased towards Callaway or TaylorMade or whatever brand. And that's fine. Like that exists. Like there's people who are on staff with different brands.
Sure.
So like, we have people all over the country, some in different countries, all that. We've spread it enough where that hopefully kind of washes out with all the responses. So that's a good list. And that is the best irons of 2025. Jake Morrow, Made from the Range. If you're not following him on social, Made for the Range. Go to his website, Made for the Range. Tons of great content. Jake, thank you so much for jumping on with me and spending this hour 15 going over a bunch of irons. So it was a blast. And man, we appreciate the time.
Absolutely, dude. No, it was a pleasure to be here. I love how you guys run the test. And you ever need me to talk for an hour about golf clubs, you just let me know.
Sounds good.